Bada boom.
Welcome back to Rob Does Pokemon, my friends. I hope you are doing well. We've got a very special guest for you tonight, Agent 007, one of the largest vendors in the GTA and one of the nicest guys too, one of my personal favorites from the hobby. I am joined tonight by Lewis from PokeStop 519. Lewis, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Great, great. I'm sipping on some vodka.
Straight vodka?
Straight vodka from a Kirkland bottle from Costco.
I like that. I like that. We're vertical tonight, guys, as well. We're going to try this vertical thing out. And if it doesn't work out, we'll go back to a horizontal format as well. But yeah, so we got Lewis in. Lewis is a guy that I met probably like two years ago, maybe a little bit ago. And
yeah, 2 years
came to your store and had no idea that it existed. And I was like, man, this is like absolute heaven for me right now. It's like in a shed next to your house that you'd built. And
yep.
I don't know, are you able to show us a little bit of where you are? Would that be okay? Just to kind of take
yeah,
a
for sure.
Around.
And it's a little messy because we had the vendors in all day today. And we won't look at the back where we're sorting cards.
There was a lot going on, man. I was pumped. I was like, man, I've stumbled into like this, like Alice in Wonderland. I felt like really, really special. But do you want to tell people who you are, like what you're about, and kind of people who may not know you? Give a bit of an intro.
Yeah, for sure. So Lewis PokeStop, we've been in the business now for probably about 17 years. Did sports in the beginning quite a bit, and over the last 10 years, got more into Pokemon and TCG. As a kid, started off just obsessed with Pokemon cards on a weekly basis, ripping. I still have all my original collection, and sports market started to slow down a little bit, so we just jumped heavy into TCG, and over the last 5 to 10 years, we've been focusing mostly on shows and in-person visits.
I like it. So I met you on Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
I think, what did I buy from you? I bought a Gengar VMAX PSA 10. Do you remember? I think I want to say I paid
like $500.
Yeah, something like that. 570, 580 Canadian. So that card went up just a little bit. I remember coming to your store as well.
$2,300 now.
Yeah, it's going to the moon. Yeah, for sure. And we'll get into some of that stuff too, which is pretty good. I appreciate everyone joining in the chat as well, guys. So if you're watching after the fact, really appreciate you guys and everyone who's in the chat. We're going to do some questions and stuff at the end. You guys know how I roll. If there's something funny you want to put up in the comments, let me know. And let me know in the chat if this vertical stream format is working for you guys. If you prefer the old way, just let me know. We're trying something a little bit different tonight. Someone's asking in the chat, Lewis, if you're the guy who had a shit ton of diamond and pearl tins on eBay. Are they misremembering that, or is that got anything to do with you?
I had a shit ton probably 2 years ago. None now.
Nice. So I wanted to have you on because I've had a lot of discussions with you in your store, and I've really enjoyed them. I think you're somebody who has a really great read on the market and what's happening, and you touch so many different people in the hobby, right? In terms of like your business, like you're a huge volume seller, like one of the largest I've come across in the country, if not the largest. What's the state of the market right now? Like, how do you feel about the Pokemon TCG from a seller's standpoint?
I think it's absolutely nuts. We have this talk every single day, every single vendor that comes in. I think we finally surpassed the COVID market. I think the COVID market was crazy. People were sitting at home, but I think now the years of people buying all that stuff through COVID, they've started to see that, hey, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made. So I think now we've got, I call it a lot of new money in the industry. So not what I was selling to 7 years ago or 10 years ago or 4 years ago. We've got a lot of investors. So the market is just insane. Like, you know, from IRs going up 10 times and alt arts 3 times, like the market's unbelievable. I'm waiting for the market boom on all my retro because I'm a retro collector.
So you're not seeing it on vintage, you're just seeing it on ultra modern?
So we're seeing it on vintage when it comes to select sets. Like we're seeing Team Rocket Returns. We're seeing things that they're kind of blowing up just based on that April release set. So we're seeing select cards just going crazy. Like Blastoise after that, the rap video or that song that got put out, a lot of Blastoise cards blew up. But, you know, we're not seeing it across the board like we are with Modern. Modern, we're seeing everything take off. I have to price my cards almost on a weekly basis right now.
So why is that? Like, why is it the Modern, like vintage is vintage is pretty easy to get hold of, and you could argue in a lot of cases cheaper as well. What's the deal with modern right now?
You know what I feel when I see most guys coming in is that it has a lot to do with grading. Like I feel so many guys are coming in. Like I'll give you one example, like the Magic card from Paldea. It's a $360 card, and it's close to $2K in a 10. So every time I get one in, it sells out instantly. People are just buying them. They're meeting with the big graders, PSA, Beckett, and they're just sending them in. And then when they come back at 9, they bring them back in and trade them in for something else. But I think the grading of the IRs has blown the IRs up astronomically.
Yeah, 100%. We were talking about this in a live the other day, like some of these, like the Drowsy from Scarlet and Violet base.
I have one to show you real quick.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
This is the one that catches me off guard.
Oh yeah, the TT. Oh, sorry, the T-Way.
Yeah, T-Tar, a card that we would sell, 3.5 months ago for $28, and is now doing $530 at bids. Buy it now is $600, and it's like I would have told people 3 months ago, like it's a good investment. Maybe it'll double in 5 years. Not it'll go up 45 times if it's graded. Like to me that's insanity. But
yeah, I agree with you. I remember early on coming into your store, and we were talking about Moonbryon, right? And you were like, I think it was $1,000 Canadian, $1,200 Canadian at the time.
Yep.
That is like $55 US. It was you kept saying like, hey, this just can't sustain. Like I remember you saying like, I'm really surprised at how this market is going. I mean, do you still feel 100%. That way, seeing what's happening with the illustration rares right now? I mean,
yeah. So this is why, like, when I give advice now, I give it like very lightly. Because I've been wrong about a few cards this year, like the Greninja. When it was like $200, I was like, "Come on, boys, sell it. Let's get rid of this card." That was $500, right? So, I think that, like, me personally is like when I want to make an investment, I want to have like sound statistical data on it. So the Moonbryon being at 4.5K or this IR being at $600, when the chart kind of looks like this, I don't know if I want to jump on the bandwagon personally. I like that statistics where it's, it's 2 years, it's running up 2% or 4% a year. I don't want to be buying stuff that's up 480% in 3 months. Personally. Now, I could be wrong, because when the Moonbryon was 3,000, I passed on multiple for trade, and now they're at 4,500. So I just think that, nobody knows the outcome of this, right? It's like the Toronto housing market. Like it just, nobody knows. Can it keep going? Can you pay $1 million for a condo that's 800 square feet?
Yeah.
Good.
People do.
I know, every day, which is the crazy part. So like for me, I like to be safe. I'll buy anything that comes in. But if I'm putting something away, I'm sure my personal collection is all retro.
Yeah, I remember you saying a lot of your favorite stuff. You like gold stars, right?
I do, yeah. That's my main collection.
I like that. So what's the play versus? I mean, you mentioned you're a bit hesitant on the stuff that's 400% chart looks like just a straight line up. Do you think vintage is a better investment right now than modern?
It's like such a double-edged sword. Like it's so hard to say. Like because like I feel like kids today and people today, like under 40 years old, they're kind of looking for, let me buy something and I can flip it in a year kind of quick. And I feel that if you jump into the vintage, like I don't think you're going to see it go down. But, when you do go to sell it, if you come to a show, I'm one of the maybe 10 vendors out of 50 vendors that have vintage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sell as quick. So like I think vintage is always a safe play. I guess you could like compare it to like, like a Bitcoin to like a Dogecoin or something, right? Like it's just like, it's really, really safe to invest in one, and the other one is like, could be up, could be down. Like that Moonbryon, I can't believe at 4.5K. Like that,
it's crazy.
I think it's a $2,500 card, and I think raw should be 1,000. But I did notice that it did just take a $300 dip in the last few days for the raw. So, but that's the only alt art right now that's dipping.
Well, it seems like that is the to use the Bitcoin and Doge, like for Sword and Shield era, in my opinion. I mean, Moonbryon is kind of your Bitcoin, and everything else kind of follows it up and down, right? Like
100%.
That seems to be how, and by like the same kind of varying degrees as well, which is interesting you say that. But yeah, there's been some expectation in crypto, like Trump coming in, he would do things a lot faster. Maybe now I think people are selling off. There was a a bit of a bloodbath yesterday and it kind of recovered, which is interesting. There's a couple of comments here I want to come to. So, so Bunny's in the comments asking about the Canadian housing market. Yeah, like things went up a lot. Let's put it that way. They went up a lot, and then there's been a bit of a pullback actually because they increased rates, so people got kind of underwater on their mortgages because they borrowed pretty heavily. Do a lot of guys buy things from you on leverage? Do they do it financing, or are they taking out credits? Credit cards or lines of credit or anything?
So with us, with the shop being more of a referral base and a friend base, and like we try not to give anybody bad advice. And I'll be honest with you, I like to make money, but I rather have a returning customer than make quick money. So when people come in, and I've had it happen 100 times with, I've got $10,000 for my line of credit. It's kind of like, can we sit down and talk about this for a minute?
Yeah.
At 14% or 18% interest, I don't like. I've sold to people on lines of credit. I've sold people leveraging things. I've had people do really crazy stuff. But we usually like the purpose of the shop here is more of like an education tool on, let me show you what you can do. Let me show you how you can make money. And if you want to do what you want to do, that's fine. But when people come in leveraging assets or, taking a HLOC out or something along those lines, like it's not a good idea, because at the end of the day, your interest accumulated it's going to always be way more than what your card's going to do. So, and I've had guys come in with, $20,000 lines of credit and kind of explain it, and 3 or 4 months they come back and they take a percentage on what they bought, because it's not as easy as everyone thinks. Like selling cards is great once you've got a clientele built up and you're dedicated, but people don't see the nitty and the gritty behind it, like the pricing your cards all night and the haggling and this. Like it's a little different. But I don't like when people take out loans or live beyond their means to buy for investments. It's usually not the best idea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, trading on leverage is something that you got to be very careful with, especially with a product that isn't as liquid as trading in stock options or buying a piece of a company. Like you can click a button and it's gone, right? There you go. But like Pokemon card, product, you could take weeks to sell that thing. Like in certain markets, it's even longer.
It could be months, right? Like I tell everybody, they're like, well, we come to the shows and it's hard enough to say hi to you because it's so busy, and people want to come into the shop and it takes 2 weeks to get an appointment, and we're like, what? It's like I have that clientele, but if I didn't, I'd only be selling 1 card here, 2 cards there, right? It takes years and years and years, and then for every time you gain a new client, you lose an old client. So like I find Pokemon goes in like these spurts, right? So I get someone that comes in, they're crazy about the market for 60 days. They're going nuts. They know every card. They text me every single day. They invest their money, and then I don't hear from them for a year. and then a year later, it's like, hey, 3 months, they're gone crazy again. And then 2 years later, and I've had this experience. I have some customers from 8-9 years ago that every year or two, they just keep coming back.
Yeah. Do you see guys going too heavy too fast sometimes as well?
Oh yeah, it's so bad. Yeah, they make a small investment and then they're like, oh, you know what, this is great. My cards went up 10%, and then next thing it's like they're back and they're buying heavy, and sometimes it's a little concerning. But the good thing is they're never going to usually lose more than 15 to 20% at the end of the day, and we buy back from all of our customers too at a reasonably high percentage.
Well, that's
so it's never anything crazy. But you know what, if you invested today $100,000 and the market did have a dip, that could be a different story completely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's the risky thing. I was talking to a guy before I came on just about Prismatic Evolution's Pokemon Center ETBs, and he's going heavy onto those right now.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, I mean, that could work out great, or it could be really bad. Like those things said they're going to print more of Prismatic, whether they do that or not, who knows? But that's a little risky.
That's scary. That's super scary. I'm pretty upset with the whole situation with Surging Sparks and Prismatic. It's actually put a pretty bad damper on the hobby itself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really surprised at just how bad it has been. And actually, Jimbo has a good question here from a little earlier on. He says, who's to blame for the crazy market? Is it Rip and Ships? Is it that culture, or is it the investors?
You know what? I think you would have to take, a chart and break down one by one. I think that if you wanted to put a blame on, sealed product, I would say it's probably partially, the Nintendo Corporation and Creature for, supply and demand manipulation. And I think then it's the next thing, it would be distribution manipulation, and then the next thing might go to, you know, ripping ships, taking everything, and then, you know, the next one might be scalpers. And, you know, like, who can you put the blame? It's probably everybody, to be honest. Like, and the same people that are in the online chats are also the ones that are, you know, doing it themselves. Like, I went to Costco the other day to pick up lunches, and there was like 30 grown men waiting outside for Blooming Waters. It was crazy. I was like, guys. And then, you know, 30 minutes later, I can see all their pictures on Facebook when they have them posted at 150, right? So anything to make a quick buck. But I don't think there's any one person to blame. But I'm very unhappy with Canadian distribution, and very unhappy with supply and chain, like supply and demand manipulation by Creature and Nintendo and WO2, whoever's putting the stuff out. And it's happening because it's the same thing that happened with, you know, when the Nintendo Switch came out, or when the Wii came out, or the Wii U, right? Like, these, they know how to create a supply and demand, and then it pushes up the market on everything else, right? If I can't get Surging, or I can't get, you know, this, I'm going to go buy Paldean, and then Bubble Mew turns out to be $600 raw.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, it really is. From where it came from, and like the hype, the lack of hype, I guess, around like Paldean Face, like, absolutely crazy, man. Yeah, it's pissed a lot of people off for sure. And I mean, distribution playing games, like, you know, they don't have any Surging Sparks. Oh, but maybe we do for like 360 Canadian a box. You can have some. Like, it's just,
Well, what the worst part about distribution is that we just had a very reputable store in here an hour ago, and I won't mention the name, but distribution with them was saying, we'll give you 1 case of Surging, but you need to take 3 cases of pencil boxes, and you need to take, you know, 2 cases of, you know, bumper guards, and, like, you know, it's things that are like, they can't sell it. So they're like, they're going to punish you by taking, and I won't name the distributions, but we all know there's only a few, but they force on you product that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, like, if you were to look at, like, you know, right now we have Chilling Reign and Pokemon Go and Vivid Voltage, you can find most of these boxes just cheaper on the marketplace than distro. I think sometimes the consumers don't realize that the distribution price is so close to market price that this is why you're seeing, like, a lot more shops, you know, having problems. That, you know, this is why we don't focus on sealed. Like, I have no interest in sealed. I like singles are what I like. And we got a big whopping 2 cases of Prismatic, and we had a rule that anybody that rips one has to open it in shop. And if you don't want to, then just pass it up.
Yeah.
It was 80 bucks. 80 bucks, and we got no hits. It was really bad.
It's brutal. I see a lot of people with ETBs just getting nothing. Like, and I've watched a lot of streams. I've seen a lot of friends opening stuff. Like, I see this, the tech sticker packs, the 3-packs seem to be decent for some people, but not for others. It's a little strange right now.
What I think is going to happen is, do you remember when the guy robbed, like, all the VMAXs and all the, like, Rayquazas? Like, I feel that in like 4 months, a guy's going to walk into a shop and be like, you know, here's, you know, 1,000 Sundreons. Will you give me $4 million for these? And then we're all going to be like, God damn it, I knew this happened. I knew it. It's like, that's the only thing that can make sense to me, because, you know, bad pull rates and hard to get stock and triple the price for retail, it's just a recipe to ruin the hobby. You know, there still is kids out there. And, like, you know, like, for me, like, we rip a lot of sealed, right? And it's not to make money, it's to enjoy it. The last time I enjoyed ripping sealed was Crown Zenith.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, you say that, because, I mean, that's going back a ways now. I liked Obsidian. I did like ripping Obsidian, but I feel you, man. It's not the best vibe right now for kids coming in. I did a video, actually, on that, like, maybe the hits are stolen. It was an Alex Ketchum tweet where he was talking about that, and I just basically plagiarized that. But I wouldn't be surprised either. Somebody rocks up with 20 stack of these Umbreon friggin' things. Yeah, it's crazy. But we got quite a few people in the chat today as well. Appreciate you guys turning out. Thank you. Please make sure you like and have some comments in here. If you've got any questions as well, let us know. Danielle says, Swan is the next Tyranitar, mark my words.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
We're trying a new format here. Lewis on his phone, so we're doing a vertical. We're seeing how it's going to push and what it's going to do. So let's go. 100K, that's a lot of poppies. So yeah, we're talking about seal versus single. So I know your stance on sealed products. So can you tell me a bit about why, as a seller, you're not a fan of sealed, and potentially advice for investors? I mean, obviously I'm a big sealed investor, but I have pretty thick skin, and I know the reasons I'm doing it. But what's your take on sealed versus singles?
So for me, I think of everything as, like, consider like we own a grocery store, right? So I'm about turning turning inventory. So if I was to be like your no frills, we're going to turn 10,000 items a week. And then if I go to the same company, the Superstore, they turn 5,000 items a week. So they're a little bit more expensive compared to a little cheaper. So for me, I want to turn inventory quick. And sealed products, the problem I find with them is that if you were to set up at a show or set up in a shop and put 1,000 sealed products for sale, you might sell a few a week. You might sell 10 a week. It's just the problem. Like, just another example is like, I want to go buy an Evolving Skies box today. $1,900. My top pull is going to be potentially $2,000 if I hit it. And my chance of hitting it's 1 in thousands, right? So now I personally have collected every box and cases since 1999. I have a large seal collection, but I collect them when I buy them at cost and I put it away. But I just don't think, they're as liquid as buying singles. So like when we set up at shows for the last 5 years straight, we have always brought sealed product with us. And in the last year, we've turned away our sealed product, and now we're into the teddy bear and plush market.
Interesting. So teddy bears and plushies instead of booster boxes and ETBs.
Yep. And now if a lot of people laugh about it, and a lot of people, if you come and watch our booth set up, we generally carry about 200 plushies per show. Okay. And the margin on a plushie is double, if not triple, the margin on an ETB or booster. Wow. And plushies make people smile and not cry when they pull Chilling Pain. We just ripped Chilling Pain an hour ago, 3 ETBs and hit nothing except a Blissey. So the market is great. They do go up, but when it comes to sell it, everybody's like, let me pay 50%. Let me pay 70%. Yeah. I'm sure you follow the Facebook groups, and how many guys right now are going through and selling their collections based on collectors' prices, and and you just see it stagnant, 3 weeks later, and all the offers in the comments are like, oh, send me a PM because I want to pay 60%, right? And it's just like, and that's the problem. And they might still be making money. I called up a really good friend a few months ago when the market really jumped, and I said, hey, let me pay 85. Your cards have doubled, so you're not really losing anything. And he came out and sold his collection. So like, if it makes sense, but I just want to be able to sell something quick.
Yeah. That's
now, that being said, I did just pull all my Evolving Skies cases out of my storage and sell them all. so
you interesting. Okay. There we go.
So now that's a little bit of a contradiction. So I officially, as of last week, sold my last case of Evolving Skies.
Congratulations.
When they hit that $12,000 mark, my initial investment was, I think it was $850 a box.
Yeah. That's nuts.
So I'm like, we're up 13 times. And I understand that they probably can go to 20 grand in the future, but what I can do, 40 cases at 13 times, it's just the money I can put back into the hobby now it's just a smart decision for me. So I do have some Chilling Reign I just pulled out also because they hit 3.7K, and I was like, maybe it's now time to unload a few of those.
Yeah, and that's it, man. I mean, this is where you get kind of strangled by the greed monster, right? You have to really be sure, if you're an investor, what's your goal, what's the timeline, and what's the activities you're going to make to make that happen. And if you got to look at this, if you're selling a booster case for what, like you said, 12 grand Canadian, and you paid $850 for it, like that's a mega profit. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, I mean, there's other things you can buy with that money. It's not like all of a sudden the money disappears when you sell it. So profits are always well taken, which is I think people overlook sometimes.
Because we were just going through Excel sheets on so we have a lot of sealed base, right? And if you look 3 years ago, like a base set box was like, 28,000, 25,000, and today we're at 17. So it's like, it's some of those things where it's like, I was greedy because during the midst of COVID, they were probably a lot higher, and I was like, oh, let me keep them for the future. But I feel that you got to be at the right place. I did make a lot of mistakes in 2016 selling stuff. Evolutions came out, and we thought that was like one of the bigger pumps in the market. So I sold some Sky Ridge and Legendary and Aquapolis boxes that they would 10 times for what I sold them for. But we do make mistakes, and there's lots of stuff I've done good, but there's nobody knows the answer. So I always love watching all the different YouTube videos, and everybody knows the outcome. But the thing is, we're just all guessing.
It's 100% true. Yeah, 100% true. There's a there's a Van Gogh Pikachu video I did in the summer where I'm like, I don't know about this card. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And obviously, you know, I
Well,
mean, and I get
a
lots of
funny
comments. Like,
story
"Oh,
about
this
that
aged well."
Pikachu is that I turned down when those Pikachus were $80. I turned down a lot of 20 of them. Someone came
Mm,
in with 20, and I just wasn't interested because it was
yeah,
when they announced the Amsterdam reprint, and I was
yeah,
like, I just don't think I want to buy them at 80%. And I'm like, I don't want to make you a low offer, and
yeah.
I just sold one on the weekend for 415. It's not good.
Well, hopefully they held on to their cards and they didn't watch my videos, so
Yeah.
that would be that would be good for
It's
them. But
crazy, and I think that, you know, honestly, like, you know, that it does have the potential, I think, to get a lot more expensive because from what I hear when I see all the kids and, you know, the adults and people coming in the shop is like, is this my chance of being a poncho?
yes, yeah,
Is this my current modern day poncho? And I think, you know, in 10 years, you know, you could potentially see them at, you know, 3 grand or 4 grand and a 10, right?
yeah.
I know 10s are like 11, but it could be, but you know, I'm not fully sure about that.
It's possible. I wish it had some, and I'm just dreaming here. I wish it had some kind of foil to it, some kind of texture or hollow. I think that would just
I
take it to the
agree.
next level. But I guess it wouldn't. It wouldn't meet the same kind of Van Gogh kind of aesthetic. But I wanted to ask you just before we move on about sealed product. I remember you telling me stories, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, about going to shows where guys had, you know, Skyridge cases, Aquapolis cases, right? And
Yeah.
then you'd be like, hey, how do you do with these sales? And they just said that we never sell them. I mean, what's the
This
deal? I
actually
mean,
happened at the National. This is
yeah,
we were booked at the National in Ohio, and the next day we were booked at MonCon, and
yeah,
they were set up across from us, and we have a reasonable setup, but their one case had like $4 million in it, and I was like, "This is insane! It's amazing, huge flex." And I remember asking them, like, you know, I've seen your booth now for 3 days, and I see everybody come up and go, like, "Wow, this is great! It's the Pokemon Network." But I said, "Do people buy the sealed boxes?" And like, "No, no, just for show." People like sealed packs though. And
yeah,
I was like, that's amazing. And I'm like, it's cool. But I'm like, you know, he's like, when the sealed packs get low, you know, we'll cut a box and throw it in our display.
yeah,
But it's crazy, right? Because for me, I enjoy cards under $50.
yeah.
So that's my favorite go-to. Like when we do shows and what we try to keep filled all the time is the cheaper stuff.
Yeah, I remember telling me about like the bargain buckets. What do you call them? Like the thing you've got a special name for them.
Yeah, I don't know if we can say it on the air.
No, no, say it. It's fun.
We call them the welfare bins.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
They're just great deals, and you know what, you can pick your favorite Pokemon for $4 or $5. And what I always tell all the new vendors, because I have a lot of vendors that buy from me, and when you get into this game, you got to forget about the hype, you got to forget about watching all the POVs and having millions of dollars in cards, because people walk up and they look at the $1,000 card and go, oh, that's great, and then they pass it and go to the $10 bins. So the welfare bins.
That's it. Hey, I like flicking through those, man. You find some bargains, you find some cool cards. They're cheap.
You
It's
can.
like, there we go. Like,
Yeah, you can
sometimes,
find great deals, because I'll give you an example. Like someone like me, we have 30 or 40 bins that are pre-priced, and we just put them out. And at the end of the day, we don't reprice the bins all the time. So people come out and they're like, well, someone just bought at the show. Like, I like this Sizer and Greavard, and we had them at $8 each, and one was 25 and one was 17. So now we did buy them at a percentage of 8 and 7, but at the end of the day, it's just, you know, we can't keep up with it. Like
yeah,
we're in 5 cities in the next 14 days at 5 different shows.
that's crazy. That's crazy, man. I remember we were talking in the pre-live just briefly. I wouldn't mind touching on this. So, you know, when we first met, like you were doing a lot of marketplace, a lot in the groups. I mean, most
Yep.
of your group posts right now are just you with this ton of cash and cards, like here's a trade. But you
Yeah.
mentioned your business approach has changed in the last little bit. Like you've changed up how you're doing things online versus the shows that you go to. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so like in the last like 3 to 6 months, we've ended up recently actually deleting 95% of our Facebook ads just because we can't keep up with them.
Really?
And our approach now is that we don't have time to sell into groups anymore. It's just like, I'll give you an example this weekend coming up. So we're at a great show called HobbyCon, and Humi the Polkadon, shout out if you're watching.
Yep.
So we're at a great show this weekend. So we'll be packed up. So no shop on Friday. We'll be packed up Saturday at the show. Sunday, we're in Bigamans. Monday, we won't be back. Tuesday, we're getting ready to go to Buffalo. So the shop technically isn't open for 6 days. So you got all these guys that are like, hey, send me pictures. And you're like, hey, I can't send you a picture because we're in the midst of going through shows and we may have sold it. So now our focus is more related on going to shows and having the shop open, 3 to 4 days a week as opposed to 7.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with like online sales. The market is so unbelievably hot now. There's no point of giving eBay 14% or 13% anymore. There's no point of doing it. There's no point of, sending your premium cards through Pristine or Golden, just hop into a show. The amount of money that people have at shows and trade value it's unbelievable. So our goal and focus for this year was to grow our Instagram and grow our presence at shows. So we're doing all over Ontario. We branch a little bit into Buffalo, New York. And, we're thinking about doing more of the big shows in the States. It's issues bringing all the stuff that we have. So
shows are where it's at. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments here. So I don't know if you know PokeRead or not, but can you tell Lewis I said hello also that he has a shiny head? There's a lot. Hey, man, your fan club is in here, man. If you guys have done business with Lewis, let us know. Like, he's absolutely the go. I've been trying to get Lewis on for a while. So, I mentioned him in videos before. Like, he's always been a little bit shy. I know he's, a little bit shy sometimes, but this guy has
just on camera. That's it. Only on camera.
Only on camera, and that's it. I try to get and we're getting a bit of it now. Not quite all of it yet, but like. Man, you're freaking awesome. Like, I love talking with you. Your takes are freaking incredible.
I appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, and whenever I meet someone who knows you and we realize we both know you, like, oh man, that guy's freaking amazing. Like, I love it. So Cameron says, when do you think the bubble will pop? Will it be with Pokemon's 30th anniversary next year, or will Pokemon only keep going up? What's the take?
So I can only speculate, and I don't think if the bubble pops, I don't think it would be the whole market. But I think if the bubble pops, it might be on IRs and some of the alt arts. But in the business, we use the basement and the ceiling as like a leveling for cards prices, right? So I think, just to give like an example of the Gengar VMAX, 3 months ago, $500, today $1,000. I think if the bubble pops, it's still a $750 card. Yeah. I don't think the bubble is going to pop and be like, hey guys, like I just lost 50%. I think it's going to be, it's going to drop to 9, but everybody's going to panic, just like with stocks and anything else. And they're all going to panic sell. And by panic selling, it's going to give those eBay low comps at auction. So I think that the basement has risen high enough now that we're not going to see a massive, massive pop. We might see a 20% or 30%, and I think it's also going to be based on certain cards, right? Like with this Rocket Return set, it's going to be pretty iconic for any card. Like, I don't know if you followed Giovanni's Charisma in 1 week went from $22 to $60. So it's just like, I think we're going to see some popping, and this is why I collect retro, because there's no popping. We don't have pops. We just make money.
I just remember getting a bit of a hard on. I walked into your store one day and you just had, I think it was 2 big display cases of, it was like Skyridge Expedition, Aquapolis, and I got an Umbreon Aquapolis from you.
Oh, that was beautiful. I didn't even want to sell that card. I love that card, man.
Yeah, I could tell during the negotiation, because you're a good sales guy. Like, let me just tell you that, all right? Like, you're a good sales guy. You make me think maybe you didn't mean to have it out. You're kind of like, oh, how did I leave that one there? What happened with that one? And I was getting that vibe from this one, but I thought it was real, and I've got pretty good intuition, I think. But you were giving me the vibe that you didn't want to sell it, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely taking this one.
That was one of the cards that I own it in a 10, but like it was so nice looking. And then I know you're my friend, so I'm like, I got to give him a great deal. Actually, can I show you one more card? You'll appreciate this one.
Show whatever you want, man.
Now we're talking about cool Umbreons. I just had this 10 traded in.
Let me get you on full screen. I think I can do it on this mode. One sec. Solo layout. Show us some cool stuff you got, man. Like, it's a little dark on the front, but I see.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the Skyridge 10.
Nice.
So just trade it in. So that's the kind of stuff that excites me. That, speaking of the Karens, I tried to buy it this weekend or last weekend, but the vendor just was not having it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't. It was 3.3, and I offered 3.1, and we RDO Collectible shout out just would not let me win. Thanks, Rod. I was hoping so badly to get it, but he was just like, nope, I'm firm on it. I love the card.
I've
But
seen you leave a
actually,
few
I'll show you a
screenshots
couple other.
recently too. Yeah, show some more stuff, man. I'm gonna put you on solo layout again. Show us. I love seeing this stuff.
So now I do like some modern. So like if I was to put my money in some modern myself, it would probably be something like along the lines of this.
Yep.
Like I do like the, it's not ultra modern, but like I just feel that that's not going to go down. I feel that that'll go up. These are the ones that I think are going to go up next. The Japanese market is starting to finally blow up a ton.
Yeah.
So our percentage in sales with Japanese is probably 25 to 30% now. So I think this is one of the cards also. But for me, my favorites are like, the Gold Star PSA 10.
Oh man, that's the Mew. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, some nice stuff. And then I also like, for modern, like the stuff that's like ultra low pop, like where you only have, 810s in the world.
Yeah. It's a hard one to grade.
Yeah, this is Eric Chow. Shout out Card Exchange. I'm just trying to get everybody in here. And then this is the one that I don't know if it'll be $15,000 in 5 years or it's going to be still at $5,000, but these are probably some of the more talked about cards right now.
Yeah, the Monk Screams. Yeah.
Yeah, so like these are the ones that I like to buy them because they do really well in trades. But they're, like, can that surpass, like what like a Gold Star 10 would be in the future? That's kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah, those are some of the nice ones. They're stuff that I like, but I just don't know the prices. I don't know if they're going to keep going or keep rolling.
Yeah, I think the floor is pretty good on those, though. Like you're saying, right? Like they're
Yeah.
pretty stable. You're not going to see the huge fluctuations that you see on TCG Player, where guys are buying up. Like there aren't guys buying up 1,000 friggin' Gold Star Mews. That doesn't happen, right? Like it's not like that in one go, right? Or very rare. Sorry, and business is asking how customs work when you come back from Canada with a bunch of stuff from the US. Well, you don't tell the customs officer.
It's pretty easy. You just keep it in your binder. Don't say anything.
You do? Like, that's it, man. That's it. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll get charged. Yeah, it is hard. If you come back with cases of product, you might get in trouble. But
so we recently, during the Black Friday sales, went down and picked up like a ton of ETBs and stuff because they were like really great deals.
Yeah.
And it just works out to like 5%. It's nothing crazy. You pay as long as, like I tell everybody, if you're gonna go across the border, just be truthful. It's not the end of the world. Like, at a lot of these places, you're going to pay less tax to begin with than in Canada. So just pay your small percentage.
Yeah.
We've I've cut off all Canadian distribution. I don't deal with any Canadians anymore. So we use American distribution and we use third-party distribution. So, and it works out to virtually the same price.
Yeah. And you're using your business to put that through at 5%. Is that correct?
100%.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, if you're a Joe Blow and you don't have a registered business, you're going to pay 13%. Just so you guys know. So get your side hustle sorted. Get a proper business. It costs you like $60 to do that.
Yeah,
so
$59.99.
Yeah, get it and done. So, where's the best place to find shows in Ontario?
You know what? We're doing a show pretty much throughout most major cities every single week. If you follow my Instagram, PokeStop 519, we actually advertise all the shows. Or if you follow me on or Facebook, we post them all. But we're in different cities all the time. And the crazy part is that there's no website that just tells you all the shows because each person does their own show and they don't talk back and forth, which causes, chaos when we're trying to book shows out 8 months in advance.
I see you're in like Hamilton, Ancaster area quite a bit. Maybe that's just my perception.
Yep. So I like to keep, I consider anything within like a 40-minute drive, like very much local. So we like to support like all the local shows. So Ancaster, Kitchener, Waterloo, Woodstock, like we consider those our local people. So we like to do their shows at least once a month.
This is an Instagram as well for PokeStop 519. Go and follow, guys. Like the awesome posts, great content, like lots of deals on there too. Like, great guy.
Danielle said she's purchased plushies. I think she's only got them for free. I don't remember her ever purchasing anything.
The margins aren't too good on the free ones, I see. Yeah, there's been some crazy rises recently. The Jesse James card rise was pretty nuts. Someone was asking about the Gensec from Fusion Strike, whether it's going to get over 50. Like, there's just some crazy stuff happening right now. I mean, what would be a card that's kind of surprised you the most?
Ooh, one that surprised me the most. Like, I'll tell you one that I lost the most on was Jesse and James, because I didn't know the price went up, and I think we sold, like, we have a trainer binder with 1,100 trainers, and I think someone at a show pulled them all out for $24, and I was like, wow, they really like Jesse and James. This is cool. And then I remember someone the next day saying, like, Jesse and James went to $100, and I was like, great, I'm not telling anybody that. That's forgetting. So that was probably one that really got me. Probably the most, because I can't see it being that expensive. And Giovanni's charisma being at $55 is also pretty nuts.
It's crazy,
just because of Team Rocket, right?
I think Team Rocket hype is real, and people are looking like, hey, where's the next thing that I can blow up for a bit? And maybe there's a buyout that happens of, there's like 20 for sale on TCG Play one day. Someone buys them all, and it's like, okay, here's a run. Like, let's do it. Like, so.
Yeah, I've been buying as many Team Rocket 10s as I can. So I just picked up a beautiful Dark Blastoise First Edition 10. So nice. I've been buying those because I've been seeing them slightly going up, and probably sit on them for 2 months and see what happens. So that's what I'm thinking. That, for me, I do like a lot of 60 to 90 day purchases, and it's usually based on like Battle Partners releases, right? So 2 months ago, I pick up a bunch of trainers that are going to be for the upcoming set. So just little things. It's like, it's more of, I'm out of boredom, can't sleep, I'm in the shop.
Yeah.
So
you heard,
and then also watching your videos too, right? And seeing what to buy.
No one watches mine. Invest in Blastoise, the Dark Blastoise from the original Team Rocket. That's the investment advice you have today. A lot of people are commenting about your coin flip success, or lack of success, I should say. Prism's in here.
Yeah.
He's talking about your coin flip.
I get destroyed. I don't know what it is, but I probably lose 75% of my coin flips. Yeah.
That's tough. You got to get the what's it called? The loaded coin.
Yeah, so I want to learn from Goated Pulls, man. He seems to win like 80% of his. I got to get his coin.
It's all fake. Just ask him. Just ask him. Just ask him. It's fake. He doesn't really buy it. And like,
well, actually, funny story. We were just at FanCon, and we did a flip with somebody, and we said, you want to do 200 or free? It was a $120 item, and they said, no, but can we do it on video, and then I'll just pay you the 120? Like, no, we don't. I don't want to do that. I'm like, I want to gamble or not, but you always get at this weird place because a lot of kids want to flip coins. So they're like 11 and 12-year-olds, and you're like, well, do I really want to flip with a kid? Like, and his dad's in the background, like, flip. Just, some of the oddities. You get to see a lot of really weird stuff vending at shows.
What about trade up challenges? You have a lot of those?
Yeah. Trade up to their parents is what most of it is. Like, it's I'll do a trade up challenge if the kid comes in and he's like under 12.
Okay.
And it's got to be like the kid goes and picks his own, because generally what it is like the dad's there and he's like, get that one, get this one. So like, as long as it's genuine, and like, for kids at shows, we traded 100%. So like, whatever they bring in, we just trade 1 for 1. And some of these kids got more heat than the vendors that are at the shows. So it's pretty impressive when some of these kids that are 10 open their binder and I see a Moonbryon in it.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. These kids. So a couple of questions here. Kevin wants to know what team bags you use that fit the graded guards.
The ones that we use. I'll grab them. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for tuning in as well, guys. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Helps me to reach more people. Helps more people to find out about Lewis. That would mean a real lot to me. Sorry, I've been drinking a lot. Mean a lot to me. And yeah, thanks everyone for leaving comments and being involved in the live tonight. It's pretty awesome. Great turnout.
So they're the Ultra Pro graded card sleeves.
Love it. I love it.
They're the only ones that fit with the Dragon Scale bumpers.
Abraham is asking, we kind of covered this a little bit, if you still see vintage as a good buy. Top cards from top sets.
100%, yeah. Yeah, I can show you what I bought this week, actually.
Awesome. Let's get on solo.
So my preference is a lot of the time with vintage. So Dark Gengar first edition, Dark Gengar, Anti first edition. We got the Ho-Oh Crystal, the Lugia Crystal, the Gold Star Mew, the TTT, some Gengars, and then this is the one that I expect probably to have one of the bigger increases. So yeah, I think you're right. Like with picking up the top hits from each set is a great idea.
What about Rainbow Charizard from Champion's Path? I'm assuming the VMAX. Christopher's asking about that.
So I think that's a great card today, but I don't know how liquid it is. It's one of Chris's favorite cards, to be honest with you. He looks out for them. We have this one weird buddy, Grant Me Cards, shout out, that collects them. So he buys them in bulk from anybody that has them. But they actually just rose up from $330 to $450 in the last month. Yeah. And raw, they're sitting around $300 now. So probably not the investment now.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that one because I have a couple. I have a PSA 10 and a raw, and I way overpaid for them. Let's put it that way. So I'm like, okay, when am I going to get back to breaking even? I'm like a little closer.
Well, I'm waiting for, like, you remember the change when secret cards were not sought after and nobody bought them? Yeah. And then all of a sudden they blew up. I'm waiting for that to happen with rainbows. It hasn't happened yet. I still think it's one of the most slept on cards, that rainbows are all super affordable. And I think one day they're going to be like, you know what? Rainbows are in.
Dude, and you're just going to make happy with that. Like, I love rainbows. I will shill rainbows all day long. They are very, very hard to pull. I think they're gorgeous artworks. A lot of people say they're basic. It's usually the cards that nobody or very few people seem to like that do very, very well in the long term as well. So I'm glad you said that about rainbows.
It's the same with gold cards too. Rainbows and golds. Your pack pulls they're so bad, and then they're all very affordable, with your few exceptions of like Earthen Vessel and playable cards, because that's another thing we haven't actually talked about is the playable side of the industry.
Yeah,
that's a crazy side. No care for the money for cards. They'll pay anything just as long as it makes the deck look great.
Yeah, that's it. Blinging out the deck. So do you like you must spend a lot of time like pricing the cards out, like a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, making sure you're up to date, especially in this market. Like things just move so quickly.
Oh yeah, it's insanity. Yeah, we spend a lot of time with cards though. I would say on average, probably 95 hours a week. So it's a lot of time, and that's between shows and pricing. Like we price every day. So cards get priced every day for hours a day, and it's the only way to stay on top. Because I'll give you an example. Like if you watch the last video of the Ancaster show we did, we had 46 feet of table, and it was elbow to elbow across the whole table the whole time.
Yeah.
So with 4 of us there, with with cards not priced, you're going to average your time with people to be like 5 to 6 minutes looking at prices. And what happens is the attention span in 2025 is about 7 seconds. And then they're gone to the next table.
Yeah. We'll move on. Forrest is asking you, when are you going to come out to BC, Lewis?
Yeah. So you know what? Like we've been talking about the Van City show, and we've been talking about doing some stuff out there. But the problem is that I'm booked almost the entire year right now for shows. Wow. So we just confirmed one show a month in Mississauga for the rest of the year. And that's a brand new show that's probably going to be one of the bigger TCG shows in Canada. So HobbyCon is going to be pretty big.
Forrest, you and Colin have to come. Forrest is regular here, as many of the people in the chat are. I appreciate. Forrest, you have to visit with Colin. You just have to come over and visit us. You got to, if the game won't come to you, you got to come to the game. So that's
I've shipped Forrest enough cards. You should come here and pay us a visit.
I was going to say, Downell is asking how you can explain the 5% to 13%. Do you want to fill this real quick?
Just business to personal. Yeah. If you don't have an LLC, I forgot to say that. If you don't have an LLC, it's 13%. If you have an LLC, it's 5%.
Yeah, 100%. And you can do that. It literally takes 5 minutes if you're on Ontario to do that. Very, very easy. do you have any Seal Van Goghs left for Taishi to pick up this weekend? Lots of people are asking about sales in the chat, which is pretty good.
Yeah, no, we had 10 plus 10 at the last show, and they're all gone. Every single one.
So we got a comment here about the 30th anniversary coming up. Is that gonna propel the market or propel the market?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very much enjoying these new Chinese sets that are coming out now. That 50th anniversary Chinese, the Mew. So like, I'm very much into that, anniversary stuff. They always bring great cards out around anniversaries, and I think the 30th anniversary is going to be huge. I think we're going to see the market just blow up.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do. I think that things just keep getting better and better in terms of the sets and what they're producing. Like, obviously the supply and the issues around that and some of the other stuff that's happening is pretty bad, but the sets themselves, they just keep getting better, man. They really
just the artwork alone. Like the artwork on, like, one of my favorite cards is that new Cleffa, where he's like kind of standing out in the open. It's just like the artwork on the cards is just getting so good. Now I would appreciate if they could change the blades a little bit so they're not nicking all the corners of 151. And, if we could center the cards, that would be a little better. But, it makes it more fun when we get 9s back after we waited 3 months for PSA.
Well, it's really hard when you're on acid and you work at that factory. Like, a lot of those guys are like really high a lot of the time. Like, I've made this joke many times. Like, they're seeing angels and demons and friggin' they're driving spaceships while trying to cut cards, man. Like, it's hard to do anything when you're on acid. Like, I think you should cut these guys a break. They're actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, if they are, that's a great deal. That's crazy.
No, I know what you mean. The print quality is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. AA Collectibles is asking about, would you be able to ask Lewis about his guards? What kind of guards they are? Does he sell them separately, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so we have in the shop at any time 1,000 guards, and we have all different colors, from gradient colors, which are multis and singles, and they sell for $5, or you can buy in quantities of 10 plus at $4. And the higher the quantity, the cheaper it gets.
I love it.
Yeah, and we grade all of our cards, and we put all of our cards in a bag, because there's nothing worse than having a PSA slab, because they scratch so easily. It just kills me when I watch people throwing their slabs around, and I don't know. I want mine to look clean.
That's me. I drop my slabs quite often. That's bad.
Yeah.
So Costco Fries. Do you know who Costco Fries is? I don't. Does Lewis like my comments saying nice cards? I already have those though.
Oh, I know exactly who it is. This is probably Naveed. He's bought quite a few cards off me. If that's him, Costco Fries.
Do you have a Costco? Do you have a sorry, not Crystal Golem? Sorry, Costco Golem. Do you have a Crystal Golem in stock? Or what?
No, I don't. Beautiful card.
Danielle's back again. What card would you recommend for investors starting out? This is a great question. In the $30 to $50 card range.
I think if I was to be buying a card today in the $30 to $50 range, I would probably look at something like Altaria EX. Yeah. Something like I like the alt art market, and I like it from the Sword and Shield era, and anything in that $30 to $50 or even $30 to $75 range. Like, I think things along those lines. And there's still a lot of great alt arts to invest into right now. There's still quite a few cards that haven't really went up, like the Aerodactyl, for example, Machamp. Those are great cards to invest in. I tell everybody, if you had a couple grand kicking around, I bet you within 12 months you could 3 times your money. Like, those cards are still $200, and the Machamp's a top hit from a box that's $360. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. Even the PSA 10s aren't very high; they're like $450. Hold
on, I'm just making some notes here. You said I'm just going to make a video about this. So the Machamp is good, and what else is good?
The Machamp and the Aerodactyl they're great cards. They're, the pull rates are 1 in hundreds. They're the second top hit and the first top hit, right? Just think about buying Lost Origin. What are you going to pay? They're going to pay like $700 for a box.
Yeah.
And the chance of pulling that card is almost impossible. And I think the artwork on that card is phenomenal.
I love it. Yeah. Well, the prehistoric Pokemon. And it's funny because one of my buddies, he's like, I need a Lost Origin booster box. He's like, I know you have some. So I gave him one, and he's going to replace it. But it was for a streamer who urgently needed it that day. And they opened the box. There's nothing in it. I'm like, what? This is crazy. 350, whatever it was at the time, 350 Canadian. I think it's gone up since, but I'm like, dude, like, Don't open your stuff. It's so stupid.
Did you hear about all the stuff happening at the shows with the poncho boxes?
No. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, so we're just getting the amount of fake poncho boxes that are resealed is
Ah,
unbelievable. So like Mario, Luigi, Team Skull, you name it, like Rayquaza, they're getting packs that are resealed. Really nice, really good. But my suggestion is, unless you're going to open it, stay away from it at like $7,000 or $8,000 a box.
yeah, that's a
But
huge
we had
outlay.
that happen at the Toronto Expo, so there's theft is becoming more and more, and it's just getting really bad at shows lately. But there was a guy that was going around selling first edition Charizards at the expo, and one selling fake Luigi boxes, and I think he took people for like over 30 grand before he got caught, and he just took off.
Wow.
So, and they looked reasonable. Like if you weren't really, in the game for like, a long period of time, it would probably get you.
I remember you telling me about you would have guys come up to you with sealed product and expensive boxes, and you'd say, "Look, I'll give you the money. Here it is on the table.
Yep.
Let's open."
This happened at the expo. So came up with very, very expensive boxes, and I asked to open them and I'll pay it. And they said, well, if you open it, I want to charge you double the price. Something ridiculous where
Yeah.
I'm clearly not going to open it. Like I wanted to charge, I think what they said is, I'm going to charge you the price of PSA 10s for the the Marios if you open it. I was like, there's no way. That doesn't even make sense. So I just passed. So if something is too good to be true, just stay away from it.
Yeah, 100%.
I learned this as a kid. If something like, I get people messaging me all the time, like, oh, on the Facebook Marketplace, there's first edition Dark Charizard PSA 10 for $800. It's in a slab and the number's real, and I'm like, yeah, they're still fake, guys. Like, there's still fake PSA slabs. We get them brought into the shop all the time. There's fake illustrators going around. We just had one of our clients get completely rinsed for an illustrator card.
Well, there's fake cards going around graded by CGC right now. They just printed them yesterday.
All but 3, right?
Actually, Metri's in the chat. I like Metri a lot. So he says, does opening an LLC mean I need to start filing taxes? So I'm pretty sure, Metri, I'm pretty sure you live in the States. I'm pretty sure your president just abolished taxes, didn't he? Did he say there's no more income tax for you guys? But
just tariffs.
You have to take that up with Trump. Oh, the tariffs. We dodged a bullet there. Trudeau saved everybody. He swooped in and he's going to send some troops to the border. It's going to happen. What a legend.
My favorite part about the tariffs thing is that I was looking at the list of meats and lumber and food, but all I got asked for like 3 weeks is it affecting my Pokemon cards?
That's exactly it. People don't give a shit about being able to eat.
No, there's no care in the world about it, but every conversation I had was like, are ETBs going up or are UPCs going to go up? If am I going to have to pay 25% on a pack of cards? Because $8 is really expensive. And if they shop at EB Games, it's like $13.
Yeah. Screw their bread and their cheese and their friggin' beef. Like, they don't care about that. Like, my Pikachus, what's going to happen?
Yeah, the joke that we have going around is like the shop's a little bit of a cult. And it just sucks people. It sucks people in, and they spend money, and it's just, I don't know. It's one of those hobbies that's fun, and I can tell you, in the last 10 years, I haven't seen anybody investing for over 5 years that's ever lost a dime. And the only mistake people make is they just don't spend more or buy more.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice you gave me is just keep buying stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep buying stuff if you want to do this thing full time or whatever. So
just close your eyes and just wait. It'll come within time.
But don't spend money you don't have for any children that are watching or any kids that don't know how to manage things. Make sure you got your other stuff paid for, right? Your car, your gas in your tank, food in your fridge, your rent's paid. That's important to have that stuff done. Okay, what's allocations like for Journey Together? Do you know anything about this? Like how allocations are going? I know you said you're kind of done with distro.
Yeah, so you can get anything whatsoever. Journey Together is it's pretty disgusting what they've done because they've doubled the price of it, first time ever. But the allocation is pretty much fully open. If you wanted 100 boxes, I could have you 100 tomorrow. But I'll give you an example. Like on the distribution side, the last 10 sets, maybe the retail was 90 and the distribution cost could have been 75. And on this one, I think they doubled the distribution. So 130, 135, and now the cost of the Japanese boxes is like 150. Now, the only thing with that is it increases the price of the cards because it's so expensive, but
Yep.
it's pretty rough to tell your customers the prices of Japanese boxes, which I've been preaching for years, are cheaper, more affordable. They grade 10s, they're more fun to open. You get better hit rates. Now all of a sudden they're just as expensive as buying an ETB from before.
Yep.
So
Anne's asking as well, where are you sourcing your Chinese cards from?
Chinese cards, we use a middleman. So that's actually the only thing that I've only started getting into Chinese traditional in the last like 2 months. So I actually don't have a real distributor. I just have a middleman. So I'm paying probably 10 to 12% over what the real distribution cost is.
You're sending a wire to some random ninja, and then like, hey, maybe you get the product, maybe you don't. Is that kind of?
Well, that is the problem. And Chinese has like a high tendency to have fakes.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know the quality of cards sometimes is like some of the stuff can be faked pretty easily, but for Chinese, what I'm loving right now is their special promos. Like those boxes when we initially invested in them were like $89.99 and now they're like $670. So just crazy stuff.
Boxes, yeah, they're crazy. Absolutely nuts as well. And so CJ's got a good comment here. CJ's on, hey CJ, good to see you. Keep in mind, if you want to make this a business, you need to put in lots of hours. If you're just doing it as a hobby, you won't need to report it. You'll pay 13% buying though. So just to clarify on that, guys, yeah, you guys pay your sales tax, right? Unless you can show your card that you're a business or whatever, for which province you're in. You can pay less tax as a business than Joe Blow off the street. That's how it goes. People in the coin flip. So I wanted to ask you about a couple of big cards. We've talked about the felt hat Pikachu. Where do you see that card going in the future? Like, what's your speculative guess?
If I had to put like an educated guess, I think it's going to keep going up.
Yeah,
I think that like the changes in Pokemon now with what we call a lot of new money in Pokemon is once you start getting new money, and what I mean by new money is investors that have no idea about Pokemon. And they see these cards and they invest, $30, $40, $50,000. They're not investing like a collector. Sometimes it's hard for the market to drop when they have so many of them. And what I see now is that the Pikachus and the Greyfelts hats, it's just been bought up like crazy. So I don't think that's even hit the ceiling. I think that's still pretty much in the main floor. So I think that's got growing to do. I can see that card going, upwards of $500. And I don't think it's unreasonable. Like they're not printing it anymore. It was something that was not readily available. Like I couldn't get it. And the one that we ended up getting was bent in half because they threw it in the box. So, it's there's not like when you look at the gem rate, it's not exactly the easiest to gem rate because you can't check the back. And then by the time you rip it open, it's off centered. So I think it's got a lot of room. And I think that the PS, if I had to speculate a year from now, we can look back at this podcast. I think that, I see a PSA 10 being $1,500-$1,600. Right now it's 11. And I think they'll be $600 or $700 raw. It's a good looking card. I like it. I actually have the artwork in the shop. It's hidden somewhere now, but I like the look of the card. It's a good card.
It's cool. Invest now. What about the Sumbreon?
So I don't touch it.
Tell me more.
I've had 2 brought to me so far. And when I always tell everybody, like, this is it's a hobby to me, but it's also a full-time career. So I have to make good decisions. I make bad decisions in flipping coins, but I think right now it's around the 2.3 mark. And I can't see it staying that high. Because, sometimes what I feel is that first print, maybe they made the pull rates a little bad. And the second print, maybe it gets better. Or the third print, it gets better. And then, like, I think that card is like a $900 card. In this market, maybe it's $1,400. But 2.3 thousand, a first edition Zard in 99 was nowhere near that. Like, this just, we're getting to the point where it's like a card that's 25 years old and lightly played first edition is still the same price as a modern pull.
Yeah.
Which to me scares me a little bit. But, this weekend I watched one of my customers came in and he asked for it. And I knew one of my friend vendors had it and it was sold for 2.5 thousand. So, you know what? It's just like, if there's money out there, and this is the difference of like, I was just talking with Nick from Level Up, and he was just talking about, when you get to these higher end people, the money doesn't matter the same as it does to like the middle class, right? So at the end of the day, $2,500 it's a drop in a bucket compared to me going out and spending $50 on lunch or something, right? So it's like there's always going to be buyers for higher end cards, and they don't care about the risk so much, and they'll put it away. And I would personally stay away from it unless you can get a great deal on it or pull it. If you pull it, the attitude I have is if you pull it and you grade it, it gets a 9 or a 10, just keep it, because you're into it for a couple $100.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at it as the next Moonbryon, and that is already priced in. Like, I mean, you remember when Evolving Skies came out, it wasn't all about Umbreon.
No, the Rayquaza was actually the top chase card everybody wanted. I remember having Rayquaza and the Umbreon in the shop, and the Rayquaza was always sold out. And now we're going back to $225 and $240. So it's a different ball game completely. I actually think the Rayquaza is a nicer card.
I like the Rayquaza. Look, I can't agree with that. We'll still be friends, but yeah, it's nutty to see what's happening with this Umbreon for sure. Like, I mean, you're buying it as an investment, thinking it's going to go from $100 card like to a what is it, $1,200, $1,500 for a Moonbryon right now? Raw, is that what it is? I don't even know. Like, are you thinking?
2,000.
Yeah, do you think the same percentage gain is going to happen on this Umbreon thing? I don't know, man. I think people are high right now. I think it's a waste of money. I think there's much better things you can invest in.
That's the thing, but at the end of the day, like when a customer comes in, this is what I try to, because we work with a lot of vendors and a lot of stores, is when a customer walks through your door and he has something in mind, and you try to tell him what's in his best interest, sometimes that can just be like a no-go, no sale. So sometimes if someone comes in and in their mind the Umbreon is the almighty, just sell them the Umbreon. You're gonna make your money on it anyway. But there's guys, believe me, that come in and it's like, at the end of the day, like CGC 10's pristine is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
They'll probably be okay. I mean, if that grading company folds up from these lawsuits that potentially could happen, allegedly, that could be those could be a great play. They're not going to be grading any more of them, which is quite interesting.
It's kind of weird. Like, maybe we'll talk like conspiracy theorists for a second, but is it weird that the two other companies competing against PSA are both having severe issues? Like, Beckett's CEO, owner doing whatever, and CGC, and then the other competitor was SGC, so they just decided, hey, let's just buy them.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's like, they own like 87% of the market. If CGC and Beckett aren't there, 100% monopoly. I don't know if you've seen what happened. They just raised their prices again.
Yeah, 100% I did. And we had JPeng on a couple of weeks ago talking about tag. It was an awesome stream. Have you had any experience with tag, or do you have any opinions on tag grading, that kind of the AI side of things?
Yeah, so my opinion is I love tag. I think they have the cleanest looking slabs. They look great. I've met all the reps in person at the shows. Just like I think CGC slabs are okay. I think MNT's okay. There's nothing wrong with any slab. And if we went back to 3 years ago, in the shop, we had a wall of PSA, a wall of Beckett, a wall of MNT, which is our local company, which we try to support local, and a wall of CGC. But unfortunately, if you want to sell your cards, it's got to be PSA. Like, and now I'm not saying that you can't sell a Van Gogh in a CGC 10. I'm not saying you can't sell it in SGC, but if you're in the Canadian market, PSA is all everybody asks for. Right now, we have 750 slabs on display in the shop, and 750 are PSA, and then we have a little table to the side with some CGC that were just traded in that were kind of cool. But if someone brings in a CGC card, we're generally giving them raw value because we end up cracking it.
Interesting.
So, with the exception of a higher end card or a retro card, like I've had a lot of cases where some higher end stuff, but we were just in Guelph at the Collecticon last weekend, and somebody brought up a CGC 10 Van Gogh Pikachu, and my offer was 85% of raw price. Now, there was a sale online of $680 in CGC, but unfortunately, when I put something in my display case, if it doesn't turn per show, that's inventory I'm losing per show.
Yeah.
So it's like anything that goes in a display case has to be something that sells. We have slab bins that are like, 30 to $100, but unfortunately CGC, it doesn't work where we are. And it's not from lack of trying, believe me. We bring stuff out, we give everything a fair try, but we've got this mentality now where it's like PSA is the grail. And lately they've been pretty rough with we submit orders for people at the shop, and we've been getting orders back, 2.5 months, 9 to 12 weeks. So and grades are pretty rough. We just opened a submission at the shop, and some of our stuff was like 7s and 6s. Pack
Jeez.
fresh cards, right? So it's like,
On
I'm not
modern
saying I like
card?
PSA, but I just, at the end of the day, it's what the customers are asking for.
Yeah.
And if you don't sell what people are asking for, you might as well just shut the shop up.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So Skippy's in here asking a question, I guess, for me. How are you approaching your investments in this market? Buy, sell, or hold? I'm not buying a whole lot. I'll be honest with you. I bought a bunch over the last few months, and I've got a video coming up probably tomorrow on it, which will be fun. But if it's not MSRP or below, like I'm not like I have the stuff I want for the most part, right? So I'm not rushing out to pay $500 US or $450 US for a Fusion Strike booster box. I'm not going to buy Scarlet and Violet sets for $250 US. If I see them on the shelf somewhere for a decent price, I'll consider it or I'll buy it. But I don't know. It just feels very saturated right now, and there's other things I buy too. I mean, Lewis doesn't just buy Pokemon cards, right? So there's cryptos, there's stocks, there's other stuff that you can buy that's got a better discount on it, or potentially has more upside. So I am selling some stuff as well. I am selling some stuff, some Surging Sparks cases I sold a couple of months back because, again, like Lewis said with his Evolving Skies, like profits are always well taken, right? You
Yeah.
gotta take some profits sometimes as well. And
Anytime you can make money, I always tell my customers, like, if you're making 50% or more, jump into it.
yeah,
Because
100%.
that's the next thing, is like being greedy in the market is like kind of what we see happen a lot. Like you buy a card for $10 that's worth 15, but then they price it at 20.
Yeah.
So it's the greed. Like, people got to understand that 10 to 20% margin is good margin, and it's not about selling one. It's about multiple, and building business success and building customers and clienteles, and repeat customers are most important. It doesn't mean giving
Mm-hmm.
a huge deal. It's just having what people need.
Yeah, 100%. Quadzilla, I'm not paying your taxes, but it certainly does feel like it sometimes. Some people like in the vertical stream a lot. So, yeah, I mean, dude, that I'm trying to keep things to a tight hour. There are lots of comments here. Are you okay if we address some of the comments before wrapping up?
Yeah, I'm free.
Yeah, cool. I'm loving it, man. This is cool. I know you got someone coming in as well. So some comments around kind of grading being subjective. Do you have any conspiracy theories around PSA right now?
Oh my gosh. Is that Prism TCG? You know what?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that grading being subjective and having graders, not making, I think how am I going to phrase this? If we paid graders $80 an hour, I think we would have great quality and things would be the same. But I think with, people coming in that maybe had a rough weekend, or people coming in that are a little aggravated, or, opening an order where there's 75 cards to grade. And if you've submitted with PSA before, if you find the actual card on PSA and you click on it, it gives you like the full description. A
yeah,
lot of people are lazy and they just type the name of the card and number. So I feel that, like, depending on the day and the person, that if you cracked a card 10 times, you could probably get 5 different grades. And I think
yeah,
that's the honest truth, and it's sad. And this is why, like, my personal collection is all Beckett. So I keep all my gold stars are in Beckett. Majority of
yeah,
my first edition cards are all Beckett, and that was a standard because I'm a little older than a lot of the viewers in here. But growing up was the Beckett guide. We went to shows, and when you came up to my booth, I had to look at the Beckett guide to see what the price was. I had to
yeah,
look at the Beckett guide to see what it was, and we waited by the mailbox for them to come in. And nowadays, when you walk to a card show, you kind of just see like phones in everybody's faces, and
yeah,
there's no communication going on. It's, well, this is this comp, and this is this comp, and this card sold in Texas 3 months ago for $80, and yours is 90. So you're still, it's the funny thing with dealing with that, right? So I think that, there could be a bias with some grading. I think that PSA is probably one of the worst companies for giving a grade. Unfortunately, they're just too all over the place, and we crack orders all the time and resubmit and get the grade we want. Sometimes you got to send it in 2 or 3 times, but unfortunately they're the market standard, and I don't see it changing, especially when they're grading between 500 to a million cards a month, and their competitors are grading 50,000.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. AI collectibles in it. We're a bit behind on the chat here, but AI is asking about, with respect again to vintage, would now be the best time to start investing in vintage, base set, rocket, fossil, jungle, and completing sets before they skyrocket?
So, like, when I think of investing in vintage, I like to let people know that there's sets after 1999 too, right? So, like, when I think about investing in vintage, like, I think that getting your Charizard at base set is always a good idea, and like your Dragonites and your Gengars from the other sets. But investing in vintage, as long as you're going up to like 2003, you can get some really beautiful cards. So, and I think that right now the vintage market is it's up a little bit, but it's a great time to invest. And there's lots of stuff. I wouldn't go investing, like, the one thing I suggest against doing is buying completed sets. I think that if you want to invest, I would do it in like probably the top 2 cards from each set. I wouldn't be buying completed sets, unfortunately.
Yeah, I like that advice. I like that advice a lot. We talked a little bit about grading. Someone did pop up. People have asked me when I will interview English people, as long as they're in Canada or the US, they're usually asleep when we do my streams. I have a very set time, guys. Like when my kids go to sleep and when I'm still awake before I go to bed. Like that's the only time I can do stuff, which is tough. You're in Kitchener-Waterloo as well for guys that are watching here in Canada, in the GTA, perhaps like around Ontario area. What's the furthest show you've done from where you're based? Like, what's the furthest you've been?
We've done one in Sudbury, Ottawa. Yeah, but probably Ottawa's probably the furthest one, but we haven't been back there in a long time. Like, we have a pretty good circuit between Toronto to London and then to Niagara Falls. So, in that, like, if you made like, the Bermuda Triangle, like, that would be it. And I think that's like the epicenter of cards in Ontario. Now, we get people asking us all the time, hey, can you come out a little further? And we love to. The only problem is, like, when you're packing up 5 people and trucks and trailers, is that there is an expense to it. And like, that's the next thing, is that people don't realize is that the average cost to set up for a show for me is like probably around $800.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'd love to go out to Sudbury and Sarnia, and I got people that I ship to all the time. But at the end of the day, it's just, if your cost is $1,000 to operate, you've got to sell 5,000 to make that back, right? So it's like, that's why we like the shows within, that 45 minutes to an hour drive.
Charlie, you got a new fan here. Charlie says he's coming in from Chatham. He's going to drive up through London. Yeah, make sure you visit London on the way as well. What advice would you have for guys that are starting off? I know a lot of people starting businesses this year in 2025. They're seeing it. What would you say to people starting off a Pokemon card business right now?
So, like, the general thing that we help people out all the time starting out. And I can give you a shout out to one of my favorite vendors, is Supreme TCG. So Chris is a guy that wanted to start getting into the hobby. He's a millwright, and he said, "You know what? What can I do?" And I think I sold him one card, a Charizard V Alt Art, for like $350. That card's probably double today. And he went online and flipped it, made a little bit of money, came back, invested again, and he's been buying and selling and doubling and tripling. Now he's probably one of the bigger vendors doing shows, and he still has his full-time job. And the biggest advice is that when you buy something and you double it and flip it, don't spend your money on a Big Mac or McDonald's. Just keep reinvesting. And, don't be afraid to spend $50 and go do a local show. Like, it's nothing wrong with it. There's tons of money to be made. And as long as you just invest and reinvest and don't get scared, and when something drops, don't panic. That's probably my best advice. And we have a really good circuit of vendors right now too. So we got some really solid guys, and majority of the guys have full-time jobs.
Yeah, I like that. What about mistakes? What would be a mistake that people would make, or a mistake that you see, I guess, in business?
I think the eagerness to sell. So starting off and wanting to sell every card that they have, and a lot of the times comparing yourself to somebody that's a little bit more established. And I think people jump into the hobby and they say, well, I saw at the show that you had 20 people all day, and at my booth, I did $700 in sales today.
Mm.
And it's like it just comes with time and patience, right? So I think then they start to mark cards down a little bit, and they start to tend to do more discounts, and get a little scared, so they'll come back in and trade at a lower percentage to get new cards. So I think by just jumping the gun and not realizing that it just takes time and effort and patience, and
Yeah,
with that it comes success.
Snackbread's in back at 2. So guys, we're gonna wrap it up because I try and keep things to a tight hour. I'm trying to keep to a schedule. There are lots of lives this week. We are going to be live on Wednesday with Go to Pools, the Bulbasaur, Jarchomp Collectibles, and Pack Battle. It's going to be a pretty incredible live. There's a lot more coming next week as well. Phillips Collectibles will be on the show. I'm really excited about that too. I really appreciate everybody who's been in the chat tonight, letting Lewis know the love. And Lewis, we got to do this again, man. You're a freaking
Yeah, man, for sure.
absolute legend. Like, I love hearing your takes.
Appreciate
And
it.
yeah, we're gonna wrap up, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take it easy.